A very good morning, Professor. My name is Jivana Murthy. The topic of my research will be focusing on product liability, where I'll be addressing the challenges of defective products in Malaysia's online marketplace. I will start by introduction, where I will explain the definition of product liability. A product liability is where a legal responsibility of manufacturers, sellers, and distributors towards the consumer for the harm caused by the defective product. The defective products fail to meet a reasonable consumer expectation due to design, manufacturing, or marketing flaw. Type of defects were definitely explained by Geoffrey Deschner, where it leads down to three types: design defects, manufacturing defects, and marketing defects. I would also go here by explaining the impacts of defective products, where it can cause serious injuries, financial losses, and or property damages. The legal framework the legal framework towards our research is that liability based on negligence or strict liabilities is imposed without a proof of fault. The legislation which I'll be focusing is on the CPA, Consumer Protection Act 1999. The challenges in e-commerce content is that the platforms act as intermediaries, complicating accountability. The lack of direct interaction increases in substance of unsafe products, and cross-border transaction complicates jurisdiction and enforcement. The objective of my research paper is that to examine the legal challenges in addressing deficient product in Malaysia's online marketplace, analyze the product liabilities law, consumer protection mechanism, and enforcement gap, propose reform to strengthen the consumer protection in digital age, explore legal gap and challenges in enforcing product liability law in e-commerce, and propose a reform to strengthen consumer protection in Malaysia's digital marketplace. The problem statement of my research would be that a research has been done in 2023 where it shows a 15% rise in e-commerce, reaching up to 44.6 billion, and that would be a 2 years back. And definitely there will be a significant increase in up to 2025. It also offers a convenience, but it also poses a variety of challenges, especially with defective product. The challenges in online marketplace is that the products sold by third-party vendors create a complex accountability web. There's no direct interaction between consumer and seller, where it limits the product's quality assessment. There's a gap in legal enforcement which can be seen in CPA exists, but it lacks robust enforcement for online transactions. Identifying the responsible parties is difficult in cross-border and platform-based sellers. The impact on consumer: vulnerability to substance or unsafe products, especially from unfamiliar or foreign sellers. Existing law fails to adequately address the unique challenges of e-commerce. The research methodology of my case would be the approach of qualitative and doctrine study of legal framework. The data that I have referred to is Lexis Advance, ELOS, Google Scholars, and books and play cases from UKM Law Library. The focus area of my research is to accountability of manufacturers and distributors and online platform. The gaps in enforcing product liability for e-commerce, identifying legal deficiency, and propose a reform to strengthen consumer protection. The literature review of my case is to focus on investigates the product liability and consumer protection law in Malaysia's e-commerce sector, analyze the legal framework, the role of online platform, and protection of consumer against defective product. A defective product can be split into two: is the consumer challenge and e-commerce growth. Consumer challenges is limit the liability to verify the product, and also complication is identify the liability due to third-party sellers. E-commerce growth such as Lazada, Shopee, Zalora, they are dominant, but they're inadequately regulated for product safety. The cases that I've referred so far, definitely the pioneer case, which is Donahue against Stevenson's, Raylan Fletcher, Chimo Mahasin, Puncak Niaga, and many more. Further down the road, I will continue by explaining challenges and defective products in Malaysia, which would be I listed out to our 5 challenges. The first one will be the lack of control over product quality. Online marketplace act as intermediaries, facilitating transaction between consumer and third party, but it leaves them without a direct responsibility for the product quality. While a platform have a seller verification process, but they cannot ensure that it actually meet up to the safety standards and freedom from defect. Vast product varieties and diverse sellers make it difficult for regulators to enforce the quality standards. This absence actually makes it, the absence of direct physical inspection makes it a likelihood of receiving substandard products. Defective items may not be identified before purchasing, so putting it the risk towards the consumer. Example like a faulty electronic, unsafe supplements, all that. The limited consumer protection mechanism, CPA, was designed for traditional physical stores. but as it fails to fulfill the address, it challenges on the online shopping, particularly when products are sold by remote or international sellers. On the key of limitation, it's difficult for returning a defective products, especially if purchases are purchased from international sellers. I'm pretty sure everyone has actually came across once or twice this issue, where maybe there would be a timeline of us even receiving product about 10 days. And if you receive a faulty or a broken item in return to return back to the seller, there would be another 10 more days for them to receive it. And for them to send back another new items, there would be another 10 days. So it would have been exceeded from what has been promised. So as I will explain, the return and refund policy of online marketplace is very unclear and not standardized. So leaving it consumer without a straightforward process. Although CPA outlines a remedy for replacement, refund, and repair, it does not always provide the practical means of consumer to pursue these remedies. Thirdly, the product misrepresentation and fraud. Sellers may misrepresent the products online by using misleading images, extracted description, and false claim about the quality. Consumers who cannot physically inspect the product, especially such as electronic items, supplement items, it ended up to due to deceptive advertising, especially in high risk categories such as like electronic, as previously explained, beauty products. This rise of counterfeit goods being sold as genuine products complicates the consumer safety. The anonymity of online platforms makes it harder to track the fraudulent seller, as it maybe prevents privacy of the seller, but it holds them, but we are unable to hold them accountable for the harm that has been caused towards the counterfeit products. Next, the difficulty in identifying responsible seller. As previously mentioned, as the rise of the platform, we tend to protect the identity of the seller, but we wouldn't know to the risk is lied towards to who at the end of the product, whether it goes back to the manufacturer or a third party seller or the seller themselves. So the defective product that has been received is very complex to find and how to reserve and who should be liable. The platform operates typically to avoid assuming responsibility by claiming that they merely actually a marketplace for transaction. So this leaves a consumer without a clear point of accountability. Determine whether the defect is due to poor manufacturing, is it a seller's quality, or shipping errors. Logistically difficult, such as returning products to distant, as previously explained. So this would also increase the burden of the consumer, making it more challenging for them to seek redress. And the lack of awareness and education among consumers. Many consumers, especially to those who are new to platform, the youngsters and also the elderly people, they are unaware of their rights regarding defective product. They may not know how to proceed when faced with issues such as defective product, whether the time is limit, whether it's a limit time for filing complaint, and what are the documentation needed to refund. Their lack of knowledge actually makes it harder to navigate the complicated and the often unclear process. Some consumers may be unaware of their risk associated with purchasing products such as electronic, health supplement, and cosmetic items, leading them to without considering the potential harm or the quality. Without proper education, consumers may be less inclined to report the unsafe products, allowing them to persist and further contributing to a vulnerable consumer base. The regulatory framework and consumer protection laws in Malaysia. The key legislation CPA. This act actually provides with a right to seek remedies, but it doesn't actually comes up to the current standard of Malaysia's marketplace 2025. The SOGA, Sales of Goods Act, imposes an obligation on seller and manufacturer to ensure the goods are satisfactory quality. But this law is crucial for ensuring products quality in conventional transaction. Trade Description Act aimed to preventing misleading claims about goods and services. This act also ensures a product sold in Malaysia are truly described to avoid deception, especially in context of advertising. The challenges in this is that CPA actually lacks addressing the complexity of e-commerce, such as the transaction involving the parties, sellers, digital, and also cross-border transaction. Without clear guidelines, it becomes very difficult to ensure that consumers are protected in online marketplace. SOGA requires products to be inspected physically, which is difficult for online marketplace as well. The increasing use of automatic platform and third-party intermediary make it difficult to enforce consumer protection standards and often claim they are only facilitators. The recent amendments, although it is made important strides, but 2018 amendments have not fully addressed the challenges of e-commerce. It still leads to a gap in legal protection for online consumers. There's a require for a robust framework. As digital economy evolves, there is a growing need to adapt and create a stronger and more specifically regulatory framework. Laws need to be updated and addressing challenges like data privacy, cybersecurity, and many more. Malaysia must introduce a clearer standard and provision for e-commerce, where the proactive legal framework are needed to align in Malaysia's Consumer Protection Act. My suggestion of the strengthening and cost production would be is the challenges. First, I will explain the challenges. The deficiency of product is actually increased report of deficient substance and so regulatory gap. The recommendation would be to strengthen a regulatory framework and legislation to enhance a marketplace accountability and to improve the consumer education and awareness. Further, to the misleading product listings, such as vague or misleading descriptions, it also tend to lead to unrealistic consumer expectation and dissatisfaction. In return, it also makes it very difficult and complex to return or to proceed with the refund process. The recommendation would be to provide a very transparent, to improve the transparency in product listing, implement clear guidelines for seller to describe product accurately, introduce a verified review system where online genuine buyer can leave a review ensuring authenticity. Example definitely would be our current market. The top social media would be TikTok, where it started as a social media but ended up now being more on an e-commerce, where it sells the items. They do provide a transparency and they demonstrate the videos and explains, but we are not certain how the item that has been displayed in the video would definitely lead into the items that has been sold, where in these kind of places that definitely we can't leave a review. Because it's TikTok is more towards a live stream platform where on that certain period only we can leave a comment, but the reviews are unable to leave, so consumers or buyers are unable to actually verify the items and placing their trust fully on the seller themselves. Next is to facilitate efficient return and refund, to leverage technology for AI fraud detection and quality. Since as our current era has been growth in our AI machine learning, we should actually invest in it to detect a fraudulent seller and products. So use a blockchain to track product authenticity, reducing counterfeit goods, and to enhance cross-border consumer protection. In conclusion, the e-commerce landscape in Malaysia is growing rapidly, but it brings with significant challenges related to deficient product, fraud, and transparency. To address this problem, a multi-pronged approach is necessary. This includes strengthening laws and regulations specifically to e-commerce, enhancing the accountability of the online platform, educating consumer about the rights and how to avoid fraud. Leverage technology can be better fraud detection. Uh, in that note, I would like to add, if Donahue and Stevenson's actually scenario happened today, I think they probably would have spent more time to figuring out who would be the responsible person for the ginger beer after buying it through an through an online platform, rather than who they would actually go again, who would be lawsuit. So Malaysia can create actually a safer place if there are more trustworthy online marketplace. In this way, implementing these measures actually can ensure that the consumer are protected and the e-commerce growth continues to benefit both business and consumers.